Hi, welcome to another video. Now, for this video, I'm going to do a book review of, I think, must surely be one of the most boring, most monotonous, most overrated horror novels. Horror, that's a bloody laugh. I have ever had the misfortune to read in my entire life. Now, the novel in question is a ghost story, written by Peter Straub, which came out around about 1979, 1980, yeah. Now, okay then, guys, it was actually made into a film a couple of years later, starring Fred Astaire and Douglas Fairbanks. Yeah, okay, but for this video, we're just going to discuss the novel. Okay then, guys, so just a bit of background about Ghost Story. It's basically about these group of elderly gentlemen, starts off at 5 and then goes down to 4 because one dies in mysterious circumstances. They meet, I think it's every 2 weeks, to tell each other ghost stories, and they call themselves the Chowder Society. So yeah, so that's the basic premise. But after that, the story goes in all sorts of weird directions. Different characters are thrown into the story. It gets more complicated, more of a slog as you go along. And I've tried a few times, guys, to finish this book, and I've failed miserably. I just could not get into it at all. I tried recently again, and after about 3 or 4 chapters, just cast it aside, and I just can't get into this book. I don't like Straub's writing. I don't like his writing style. Too much padding. Everything that I dislike in a horror book, guys. This book suffered from these symptoms. Yeah, story was weird. It wasn't frightening. As I said, very overrated story. And it's actually a bit of a Marmite book. There's some people loathe it, there's some people like it, and I loathe it. Yeah, one of the worst, most overrated horror books I've ever read. Yeah, I just couldn't get into it at all, guys. Yeah, a very slow burner, and a real slow burner. I had to laugh to myself because I was watching a video the other night about a guy who did similarly reviewed Ghost Story, and he said what he had to do, the book got that complicated. He had to start making notes about. He had to make notes about each character. He had to make notes about the plot points. What plot points there were, and they sort of, like, all the stories sort of entangle. So basically, what happens is it's something to do with shapeshifters. I haven't read the whole book. I'm just skimming the surface, really, giving you the general outline of the story. It's about these shapeshifters, and they take the form of these women. Yeah, but I didn't find it scary in the least, guys. And the more I've tried to get into the book, the more I've come to hate it. So I don't think I'll be trying to get into it again. So, but yeah, guys, very overrated novel. And I couldn't believe when it first came out, Stephen King, he said this book actually terrified me. Well, he must be very easy. All I can say is, like, this is just a matter of personal opinion. In my opinion, he must be very easily scared, for a book to frighten him like that, But there was nothing in it, guys. It was a very slow burn, and I'd rather watch paint dry, guys, to go back to this bloody load of tripe and try to get into this again. It was bloody rubbish. It really was. But yeah, I say I don't like Straub's writing. He's gone now, God rest his soul. But he wrote a couple of other books as well. One called Coco, which I've never read, and there's another one. It was Shadowlands, I think it was. Never read that either. But yeah, guys, I don't really rate Straub's books at all. And this one, as I say, it didn't hold me attention at all. It went into all. It started off promising enough, in that prologue, like it's got like a prologue about this fella. He's on the run with this young girl and that, and it seems as if he's kidnapped and that, But then it goes into the story of the Chowder Society. These are elderly gentlemen, that meet up every fortnight to tell each other ghost stories. And from what I can gauge from other people who've reviewed it, what basically happens is they start having nightmares, and they start getting picked off one by this entity or entities, But yeah, guys, I will never, ever go back to this book again. I've tried now 3 or 4 times, guys, and each time I've been thoroughly disappointed. It's like Stephen King's fairy tale. I mean, I haven't gone back to that. Granted, I haven't gone back to that again, but the first read, I just cast it aside and that, He seems to have abandoned the horror lately. He seems to be writing these, like, sort of like fantasy books, and that Holly Gibney character. He loves that Holly Gibney character, yeah. But this video isn't about Stephen King. It's about Ghost Story by Peter Straub, and one of the worst, if not the worst, horror book I have ever read in my whole life. I don't like these books, guys, where they go off like into flashbacks and that, and you get all these characters in. No wonder that guy had to make a note of what every character and every plot point, and he had to do like diagrams and that. I ask you, that's the last thing you want to be doing when you pick up a novel and start bloody making a note of all the characters and that, and drawing diagrams and that, plot points and that. You think you're going one way, then the rug's pulled from under your feet and you're going in an entirely different direction. Also the detriments of the story, guys. Yeah, but yeah, Ghost Story, a big thumbs down for me. And if I was asked to give it a rating, I would give it a 0 out of 10. Very, very. But I do know a lot of people love this story, and that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. But I'm just saying, I'm not trying to put you off if you haven't read Ghost Story. It's supposed to be heralded as a classic of modern horror fiction. I don't think so. But if you want to rent it from your library or, fork out for it, see what you think. I'm not trying to put you off. I always say this in my videos. I'm not trying to put you off. It's all a matter of opinion. So, now that's what I thought of Ghost Story anyway, guys. I tried again recently and I thought, this is it. I didn't have a waste paper bin in his hand, unfortunately. I'll give it to a charity shop, yeah. Okay then, guys, that's my very, very, I must admit, rather scathing review of Peter Straub's chunky doorstopper of a failure novel. Well, a failure in my eyes is Ghost Story. Have any of you guys read Ghost Story by any chance? Did you think it was a tedious, yawn-inducing, soporific bore like I did? Leave a comment down below, guys. Let's get a good discussion going about Ghost Story by Peter Straub. Yeah, but yeah, guys, I've even watched the movie as well, guys. I watched it a couple of years ago, and I didn't think much of the movie, to be honest, and that, But as I say, and I believe it's a very, very bare bones version of the book, the movie. But yeah, guys, as I say, getting back to the novel, that's it now. I'm never, ever, ever, ever going back to this book again. Ghost Story by Peter Straub. And as I say, if you just want to, check it out, you're quite welcome to it. And that, but don't say I didn't warn you. If you're the type of person like me that likes a story, say, from the word go, hold your attention. You're not going to find it here, guys. You're going to find a load of too many characters and that, and ridiculous scenarios and that. I was expecting it, to be honest, when I first read it, like in was it 1980? I think it was 1981. I was expecting it to be like a chunky, like M.R. James kind of story, where you got all these elderly gentlemen in it, all gathered round the fireside and telling really creepy stories with a twist at the end. No. I think there's only about 2 ghost stories in it, guys, and that's it. It goes off on all these weird tangents and that, and that's the worst sin a writer can commit, to bore the bloody pants of his reader. Okay then, guys, enough said about the soporific bore that was Ghost Story. Like the video, please feel free to share, subscribe, comments, and while you're here, why not check out my movie site, Alan Scouser. Yeah, okay then, guys, that's it. Bye.
If you enjoyed watching this video, guys, you might like to check out my website at www.alantoner.com. You'll be able to find out a little bit more about my work as a writer and all the books I have published to date. Thanks for watching.